Welcome nurses and nursing students to the video on the oral phase of swallow. The aim of this video is to give you some information and educate you on what we mean when you hear us talk about the oral phase of swallow. Did you know that the term dysphagia comes from the Greek word phagein, which means to eat? Do you ever wonder what happens to the food you eat? Or what's involved in delivering that food from my mouth to my stomach? I'm here to explain what I mean when I talk about dysphagia. You may already know or have some ideas about what I mean when I talk about dysphagia. You're right, dysphagia is related to the swallow. Before we go any further, let's add some context to what I mean when I talk about the normal swallow. Have a look at this video.
Oral phase, in which the food is chewed and lubricated to form a bolus. Pharyngeal phase, in which the movements of the soft palate, larynx and epiglottis separate the air passage from the food passage so that food and drink are not aspirated into the nose or trachea. Esophageal phase, in which the food passes down the esophagus via peristalsis into the stomach.
Let's look more closely at the oral phase of swallow. When we talk about the oral phase of swallow, we simply mean the phase of swallow that happens in the mouth. The structures involved in the oral phase of swallow are the soft palate, the teeth and the tongue. During the oral phase of swallow, food is chewed in the mouth using the teeth and the tongue to form a bolus. You may think of the oral phase of swallow as something like a conveyor belt for our food. It's important to remember that the tongue is a muscle, and like any other muscle in the body, this can become weaker with age. This weakening can have an impact on the oral phase of swallow. The main role of the tongue during the oral phase of swallow is to move the bolus from the front to the back of the mouth. So now that we have looked at what exactly is involved in the oral phase of swallow, let's look at how impairments in the oral phase may present in patients. Look out for patients who experience the following: drooling, loss of food anteriorly from the mouth, holding food in their mouth or failing to swallow the food or drink in their mouth, and a swallow that looks effortful. To learn more about swallowing, make sure you're following Dysphagia Awareness Month, which happens in June of every year. You could also find out more by following the hashtag Dysphagia Awareness Month on Instagram and Twitter.